Good morning, guys. I've been doing some observations for an hour or so. Just started off some anomalies here. This is from one of the military bases that I made a video on, where they've got those weird underground and also upper ground transmitters, big transmitter aerials, and that comes directly in to where that is, and that's affecting weather conditions off the coast of Spain and Portugal. And there's a big anomaly here, the big next right on the corner, and transmitter aerials here, and this is how they're blocking the rains. You watch this one here, there, just a big flash. And remember, this satellite takes once every 15 minutes. It's one screenshot every 15 minutes. You don't see what happens in between. So 99% of it is what you don't see. This is the 1% that gets through that we do see. But that's making electrified, funny shaped clouds off the coast. That's what that's doing, which is here. For example, like this, you get a round area with all lines coming from a centre point. This is just off the coast in the Atlantic, and when we deploy, we tend to get this effect, which was sorted off the northwest of the UK. But let me show you what happened further over here. This was yesterday. This is how they cranked and screwed up the storm for the UK. It starts here every night. There's over 5,000 jets that travel from Mexico, the USA and Canada all across this area here. Canada's slightly north, but they still come through this area. It's weird. So they hit it with these frequencies. Remember the Tesla 90-degree angles to the main flow. Remember the waves that Tesla did, and it's still the same thing on anode and diode frequencies. So this starts here. You can see it charged the same sort of frequencies we've just looked at. It's a soup of frequencies and a right mess. It starts here, and there's a line that follows through. Here's your other frequencies coming through here, a straight line coming straight through, and we'll take it from where it starts here. So there's all your main chemtrailing, and it mixes in here, and the line comes through. There's your others. That is the backbone of the frequency that you see down there. It comes off at right angles. It's an ongoing line, and it travels for about 3,000 miles. It comes straight up here. It keeps going. There's some big chemtrails added into the equation. It goes in a straight line. There's more frequencies added in, and you can see now how it's building up to a big line that comes into this area here. And guess what's at the end of it? And this is the other side of it. Look at that. It comes straight through. Your frequency is still carrying on, and it rotates here, ready to come in right in to what lies ahead of it, which is the UK and Ireland. Smack on target, and of course using equipment here to line it up. And there you are, straight through from there. There's equipment along these islands on the coast I've done videos on, and there's also other equipment on the islands down here, and that's exactly where it flows from and to. Amazing. Anyway, back to today. We've got broken clouds, sunshine. The weather forecast is showing. We deployed south partly the other day, and we did a dual one, blocking the storm and trying to get the high further down, which is now forming down here. Now the remnants of the western deployment taking effect 48 hours over a period. It's just off his shoulder here. That's heading back north. That's that rotation we caused by heading west. It put a blockage off island. Eventually it will come in, but as you can see, that blocks it. That's what's happening and coming up Saturday. But that has also been worked Thursday and Friday. It blocked it and pushed it back that way.
Rising a little bit, but through the night on Saturday into Sunday, rain becoming a bit more extensive and widespread, moving its way from west to east. And as that hits colder air, it's going to fall to snow at the higher ground of Scotland, through the Pennines into Sunday. Some heavy rain for a time, but look at those temperatures in the south and the west, getting up into double figures. Still cold, though, in the north and the east. More details on the website, of course, but that...
So, what I'm concerned about, I'm explaining this. This is why I work out the deployments. It's worth you knowing. If you don't want to know, it doesn't matter. Just go through to the end and look at what the deployments are. There is catastrophic events happening that isn't being reported on, and it's to do with solar minimum. I'm going to announce the deployments in a minute. Just a quick note on solar minimum, and I'll be doing other updates on this. Jupiter was going to be our second sun, and it rotates with the other planets around the sun, of course. But this is the effect it has on the sun. I'm going to restart this, if I can see the play button.
Around the center of gravity.
There.
The patterns of the motion
So
of the
there's the
planets
centre of
in the
gravity,
sun cycle
but the sun's
all
pulled
match
by
up
the
with
planets
the previous
as it
minima in
rotates,
history.
especially
The
Jupiter,
abstract
which is
concluded
of course
a
the
new
biggest planet.
prolonged minimum of solar activity.
And it's that wobble that changes Earth's climate as well, and it's that wobble that creates the sunspots and solar minimums. Now, we are now entering a peak of the solar minimum, and it's going to affect the climate for the next 20 years. That has been peaks and troughs and represented in history. But what can happen is that, like the mammoths, it says they were still walking and eating with food in the mouth when they were frozen. As you know, when you go in an aircraft, the upper atmosphere can be minus 90 degrees, and it's those winds that plummeted from the upper atmosphere to ground level within hours during the solar minimum that wiped out the mammoths. And it's because of the inactivity of the sun, no solar flares, no sunspots, which is where we are now. Very worrying. And we get dickheads like Mark Alkin, excuse my flipping mum-barbie language, that says we don't want solar flares at this time. It's that very reason why we're going to have the problems in the climate that causes the issues that we are now about to experience. I hope it doesn't get as bad as history has, and as what other scientists are saying. Some scientists are being gagged on the internet and being blocked by saying information like this. Now, I'm not sure if you can see this, but they're saying there's an 8,000 year interval, and a cycle is 8,000 years. And there is another interval at 2,402 years. Corresponds to the Jupiter heliocenter, which we've just seen, and the alignments. It matches it perfectly. Now, part of this writing is off the page of my screenshot. I can't alter it once I've started, but I'll read it to you. It's this section here, talking about the sun's solar cycle. It says, interestingly, the sun's solar cycle has been in the phase locked mode for the last 105 years, from 1900 to 2005, and the indications are that it's about to suffer another phase catastrophe in the later part of the cycle 24, i.e. the solar cycle that will peak in 2011 to 2012. And we saw in 2013 and 2014 that temperatures plummeted across parts of Europe, in fact as far as down to Africa, where they were getting snow, and Saudi Arabia. It says if this is the case, then we should expect that in the 2 decades following the phase catastrophe, the world's mean temperature should be noticeably cooler. The cooling should start in the late 2010s, which it did. This is from 1985, okay? And this was a scientist that predicted this back in 1985 and also in 1973. and it's based on the precedent that there were notable decreases in the world's mean temperature following the last two phase catastrophes. Called it the Dalton Minimum, 1800 to 1820. I believe that's when the Thames froze over. And the 1790s, a similar cool period in the Victorian Minimum. And it looks like this as regards to the sun's orbit. And this is the helical model. Unlike being on a flat plane stationary, the sun moves forward with the planets rotating around it. That's unless you believe otherwise. If you say the Earth's flat and everything revolves around the planet Earth, but this is what is majorly acceptable by everybody, and that's why we get that wobble in the sun as the planets are going round. And if you notice, we had an alignment of every single planet in a straight line, and that pulls on the sun in one direction and increases that wobble.
That this thing is behaving in certain ways, and they have different theories as to why it's behaving that way, but all of their theories seem to dictate that we are entering a new minimum. Now, if I saw this video, I'd still be upset at it because, and I apologize for this, I've only been able to barely even not dent, but not scratch the surface of the body of research out there on this. There's a tremendous amount of supporting literature because it's happening, and there are real observations to talk about. People disagree about the nature of those observations, but not that they are empirically happening around us. But that's why I started with showing you how to look up papers and do this research yourself. I've just shown you a couple paths in to the body of literature out there. Pursue them to your heart's content, and then come back here to the Ice Age Farmer, and we can continue talking about how we're going to thrive in these changing times.
And as he says, there's loads of other evidence out there. If you dig for it, you'll find it. That's my take on it. Temperatures are plummeting, and here they are going to spray chemtrails to make it even cooler. And the fact is, I've been vindicated. It's solar minimum. There are more earthquakes and more volcanoes during a solar minimum than a solar maximum. That's what all the evidence shows. However, if solar flares take place, which is what past deployments have done, only now on 3 separate occasions, all with excellent results, it's one way of offering a form of etheric protection. That's all I'm about to say on that for the time being. Down to the southwest, there's a high forming down there. It's not predicted to rise, and the temperatures are going to tweak up slightly, 9-10 degrees for the UK. It's worth going southwest or even almost directly south to increase the pressure in front and bring this up to the UK. For reasons partially for what's about to happen to temperatures across Europe. This does help to raise temperatures across Europe. In view of the solar minimum, I foresee for the next month or so we may have other plummeting temperatures and further snow. That will help to ease that. So southwest for the team today. I'm going to take stock of it over towards the weekend and see if there'll be some more northern deployments or northwest and west on further blockages, which will increase this rise of temperatures. So today, as of yesterday, we're repeating yesterday's deployments. Southwest horizon, 2 lots of 3 hours, full water. That high is formed to the southwest, and I believe it will rise over the next 2 to 3 days to help compensate some of these colder temperatures. So that's the deployment for today, folks. Thank you for yesterday, those participating. If you can participate and you haven't done, please. There are over 200 translators out there around the UK, and we have a handful of participants. I am sure more people could participate. It will make a big difference. Thank you, folks. Speak to you later.